Tonight, we return to an age of towering walls, bronze armor, and winds that carried the songs of forgotten heroes across the Aegean Sea. Before the long voyage of Odysseus, there was another story, one of honor, loss, and the greatest war of the ancient world. So settle in, relax, and let the timeless tale of the Iliad gently guide your thoughts into peaceful sleep. Many years before the armies reached Troy, the seeds of the Great War were quietly planted during a magnificent wedding celebration. Noble guests gathered beneath marble halls while music echoed across the mountains. Golden cups reflected the evening light, and every heart seemed filled with joy. Yet one forgotten invitation would soon transform this peaceful gathering into the beginning of a legend remembered for thousands of years. Among the guests appeared a mysterious visitor carrying a single golden apple. Upon its shining surface were written only 3 simple words: "For the fairest." What seemed like a harmless gift quickly became the center of attention. 3 powerful figures each believed they deserved the prize, and their quiet disagreement slowly grew into a rivalry that would change the destiny of kingdoms far beyond the mountains. Unable to settle the dispute, the choice was given to a young prince named Paris. Far from the splendor of royal courts, he lived peacefully among green hills, watching over his flocks beneath endless blue skies. He could not have imagined that a single decision would one day lead mighty kings to cross the sea and surround the legendary city of Troy. One by one, each visitor offered Paris a remarkable promise. One offered unmatched power, another promised endless wisdom and victory in every battle. The last offered something no treasure could equal: the love of the most beautiful queen in the world. Standing quietly beneath the olive trees, Paris looked toward the horizon, unaware that his choice would echo through history forever. Paris finally reached his decision. With calm hands, he offered the shining golden apple to the figure who had promised him the love of the world's most beautiful woman. The hills remained peaceful. Birds continued singing, and the gentle breeze carried the scent of wildflowers. Nothing seemed different. Yet unseen by every eye, that quiet choice became the first step toward a war that would be remembered for thousands of years, changing the lives of kings, heroes, and ordinary people alike. The woman Paris had been promised was Helen, Queen of Sparta. Across the Greek world, travelers spoke of her remarkable beauty and graceful presence. Her palace overlooked calm blue waters where merchant ships quietly arrived each morning. Within its marble halls, life appeared peaceful and secure. Yet destiny had already begun its slow work, drawing together distant kingdoms toward a future none of them could yet imagine. Paris was welcomed into Sparta as an honored guest, following the sacred customs of hospitality cherished throughout ancient Greece. Banquets filled the evenings with gentle music, glowing torches, and warm conversation. But beneath the peaceful celebrations, another story quietly unfolded. When Paris departed, Helen journeyed with him across the sea, leaving behind a silence that would soon awaken the greatest gathering of warriors the ancient world had ever known. When the news reached King Menelaus, deep sorrow spread through the royal palace. Messengers rode swiftly across mountains and coastlines, carrying word to rulers bound together by ancient promises. One after another, kings answered the call. Harbours filled with skilled craftsmen building great wooden ships, while thousands prepared supplies for a voyage whose ending remained hidden beyond the distant horizon. As countless sails slowly rose against the morning sky, the great expedition began. The sea stretched endlessly before them, calm and shining beneath the first light of dawn. Each ship carried brave warriors, experienced captains, and dreams of returning home in victory. Waiting across the waters stood mighty Troy, protected by towering walls and courageous defenders. The legendary war had not yet begun, but its shadow already stretched across the ancient world. For many weeks, the great fleet sailed across the calm waters of the Aegean Sea. Every sunrise painted the sails with soft shades of gold, while every evening wrapped the ships beneath quiet stars. The warriors spent their days repairing armor, sharpening bronze spears, and sharing stories of their distant homes. None could know how many years would pass before they would see those familiar shores again. At last, the towering walls of Troy appeared upon the horizon. Built upon a gentle hill overlooking the sea, the city stood proudly beneath the warm morning light. Strong stone walls surrounded magnificent temples, busy marketplaces, and peaceful homes where families carried on their daily lives. To those living inside, Troy seemed eternal, protected by generations of careful builders and brave defenders. When the Greek kings arrived before Troy, they understood that victory would not come quickly. The city's mighty walls rose higher than any siege ladders they possessed, while skilled archers watched quietly from above. Camps soon spread across the shoreline as thousands of tents filled the open fields. Fires glowed each evening, turning the coastline into a city of soldiers waiting patiently for what lay ahead. Days slowly became months, and months quietly turned into years. Neither side wished to surrender. The defenders of Troy remained safely behind their great walls, while the Greeks controlled the surrounding shores. Life settled into an unusual rhythm, where moments of peaceful waiting were occasionally interrupted by brief clashes beyond the city gates. Patience became as important as courage. Among all the warriors gathered before Troy, one name inspired greater admiration than any other. Achilles, the young hero from Thea, was celebrated for his unmatched skill and fearless spirit. His bronze armor reflected the sunlight like polished gold as he walked through the Greek camp. Though still young, Many believed no warrior alive could equal his strength upon the battlefield. The leader of the Greek alliance was King Agamemnon, ruler of mighty Mycenae. He commanded the largest army ever gathered in the Greek world, and every king had pledged to follow his leadership. Yet leading so many proud rulers was never easy. Around the evening fires, quiet disagreements often lingered beneath polite conversations, reminding everyone that even great alliances could be as fragile as a calm sea before a storm. Achilles respected courage more than crowns. Although he fought beside Agamemnon, he valued honor above all else. The young hero believed that every warrior deserved fairness and respect, regardless of rank. As the long years of war continued, small misunderstandings slowly grew into deeper tensions. What began as quiet differences would soon become one of the most important turning points in the entire story. One season, after a successful campaign near Troy, the Greek army returned with valuable treasures and captives. According to ancient custom, the rewards were shared among the leaders. At first, the distribution appeared peaceful, and the soldiers celebrated another successful victory. Yet hidden beneath the celebration lay a disagreement that would quietly divide two of the greatest figures in the Greek alliance. The disagreement between Agamemnon and Achilles did not begin with swords, but with wounded pride. Each believed his honor had been diminished before the assembled army. Voices remained calm, yet every word carried growing weight. Around them, experienced warriors watched in silence, understanding that conflict between their greatest leader and greatest champion could threaten the future of the entire expedition. At last, Achilles made a decision that stunned every warrior in the camp. Rather than continue fighting beneath a leader who had insulted his honor, he quietly withdrew from the battlefield. His famous armor remained untouched, and his loyal companions stayed beside him near the ships. As the sun slowly disappeared beyond the sea, the Greeks realized they would soon face Troy without their greatest champion. Without Achilles upon the battlefield, the balance of the war slowly began to change. Each morning, the gates of Troy opened, and its defenders marched confidently across the plain. Their bronze armor shimmered beneath the rising sun as they advanced in orderly lines. Among them walked Hector, the noble prince of Troy, whose courage inspired every soldier who fought beside him. Hector was admired not only as a fearless warrior, but also as a devoted son, husband, and father. Before many battles, he returned briefly to the quiet streets of Troy, where his family waited with gentle smiles, despite the uncertainty surrounding them. These peaceful moments reminded him that every step onto the battlefield was taken to protect the people and city he deeply loved. As Hector continued to lead successful attacks, the Greek army gradually fell back toward their ships along the shore. Smoke drifted gently above the camps, while weary warriors repaired damaged shields and sharpened worn spears. Though their determination remained strong, many quietly wondered how much longer they could endure without the unmatched strength and leadership of Achilles. Achilles remained beside his ships, watching the distant battles unfold across the wide plain. He heard the echoes of clashing bronze carried gently by the wind, yet he did not lift his armor. His closest companion, Patroclus, observed the suffering of the Greek soldiers with growing concern. Each passing day made silence increasingly difficult to bear. One quiet evening, Patroclus approached Achilles with a humble request. If Achilles would not return to battle, perhaps he could borrow his famous armor and lead the weary Greeks himself. The shining armor was recognized throughout the battlefield, and its appearance alone might restore hope among the soldiers. Achilles listened carefully, knowing this simple request could change the course of the war forever.
After a long silence, Achilles finally agreed. He placed his legendary armor into the hands of Patroclus, but with one important request. He asked his loyal friend to drive the Trojans away from the Greek ships, yet not to chase them all the way to the walls of Troy. The purpose was to save the army, not to seek everlasting glory. Patroclus accepted the request with gratitude, believing wisdom would guide every step he took upon the battlefield.
When Patroclus appeared wearing the shining armor of Achilles, excitement spread quickly through the Greek camp. Many warriors believed their greatest champion had finally returned. Their spirits rose once again, and together they marched confidently toward the battlefield. Across the plain, the Trojans also noticed the familiar armor glimmering beneath the sunlight, and paused for a moment, uncertain about what awaited them. The battle slowly turned in favor of the Greeks. Encouraged by renewed hope, they pushed the Trojan army farther from the shoreline. Patroclus fought with remarkable courage, inspiring every warrior beside him. Yet, in the excitement of victory, he gradually forgot the promise made to Achilles. Instead of stopping after saving the ships, he continued advancing toward the towering gates of Troy. From the walls of Troy, Hector watched the advancing warrior, whose armor resembled that of Achilles. Believing he faced Greece's greatest hero, he calmly prepared for battle. The two champions met beneath the warm afternoon sky, while soldiers on both sides watched in respectful silence. The outcome of their encounter would soon become one of the most unforgettable moments in the entire war.
The duel ended with deep sadness. Patroclus fell upon the battlefield, surrounded by the quiet sounds of fading conflict. As the evening sun slowly descended beyond the distant hills, news of his death began its journey toward the Greek camp. There, beside the silent sea, Achilles remained unaware that the loss of his closest friend would soon awaken a grief unlike any he had ever known.
When the sorrowful news reached Achilles, the world around him seemed to fall into complete silence. The gentle waves continued washing against the shore, and the evening breeze still carried the scent of the sea, yet nothing felt the same. Patroclus had been more than a companion in battle. He had been a trusted friend since childhood. Grief quietly settled within Achilles' heart, replacing the anger he had carried for so many years. As night covered the Greek camp, no songs echoed beside the campfires. Warriors spoke only in quiet voices, honoring the memory of Patroclus. Achilles remained awake beneath the stars, reflecting upon every moment they had shared together. Before the first light of dawn appeared, he made a solemn decision. He would return to the battlefield, not seeking glory, but to honor the friend he could never replace. Knowing his old armor had been lost, Achilles received a magnificent new set of bronze armor, crafted with extraordinary skill. Every polished surface reflected the morning sunlight like flowing gold, while the great shield carried detailed scenes of rivers, mountains, cities, and peaceful fields. More than simple protection, it represented the beauty of the world that every warrior hoped to preserve through courage and sacrifice.
As Achilles stepped onto the battlefield once again, a quiet determination surrounded him. Greek warriors who had nearly lost hope now stood taller, encouraged by the return of their greatest champion. Across the plain, the defenders of Troy also noticed his shining armor. Even before the first spear was raised, many understood that the course of the long war was about to change forever.
Within the walls of Troy, Hector quietly prepared himself for the battle ahead. He understood the danger that awaited him, yet his thoughts remained with his family and the people who depended upon his courage. Standing atop the great walls one final time, he looked across the peaceful fields stretching toward the sea, carrying within him both hope and acceptance of whatever destiny the coming day might bring. Before leaving the city, Hector returned home one final time. Inside the quiet courtyard, his wife Andromache waited while their young son played peacefully nearby. The sounds of the distant battlefield seemed far away as Hector gently lifted the child into his arms. For a brief moment, the burdens of war disappeared, replaced by the simple joy of family beneath the warm afternoon sun. Andromache quietly pleaded with Hector to remain within the safety of Troy's mighty walls. She feared the coming battle and hoped her husband might choose life over honor. Hector listened with kindness, understanding every word she spoke. Yet he also believed a guardian could not abandon those who depended upon his courage. With gentle reassurance, he promised to meet whatever destiny awaited him.
As Hector walked back through the great gates of Troy, the people watched him with quiet admiration. Merchants paused their work, children looked on with curiosity, and elderly citizens offered silent prayers. To them, Hector was more than a prince. He was the city's strongest shield, a leader whose courage gave hope during the long years of uncertainty that surrounded their beloved home.
Outside the city, Achilles advanced steadily across the plain. The sunlight reflected brilliantly from his newly forged armor, making him visible from a great distance. Warriors on both sides understood that two remarkable champions would soon meet. The battlefield itself seemed unusually quiet, as though the wind, the birds, and even the distant sea paused to witness the approaching encounter. As the two warriors finally faced one another before the towering walls of Troy, silence settled over the battlefield. Their meeting was not born from hatred alone, but from duty, loyalty, and the choices each had made throughout the long years of war. Beneath the gentle light of the setting sun, Achilles and Hector prepared for a duel that would forever become one of the greatest moments in ancient epic literature. The evening breeze drifted gently across the plains before Troy, as Achilles and Hector stood facing one another. Around them, thousands of warriors watched in respectful silence. No voices rose above the whisper of the wind. Both men understood that this moment would be remembered for generations. Beneath the fading sunlight, they tightened their grip upon their bronze spears, preparing themselves with calm determination for the duel that lay ahead. For a few quiet moments, neither warrior moved. The vast battlefield seemed to hold its breath as birds circled high above the ancient city. Then, with measured steps, the duel began. Bronze shields met with steady force, while long spears flashed beneath the warm evening light. Their movements reflected years of discipline, courage, and dedication rather than anger alone, making the encounter as graceful as it was unforgettable. At last, the long contest reached its final moments. Hector fought with remarkable bravery until the very end, protecting the honor of Troy with unwavering resolve. When the battle was over, a deep stillness settled across the plain. Even those who had stood as enemies quietly recognized the extraordinary courage shown by the city's noble defender throughout the long years of war. As twilight spread across the sky, Achilles looked upon the quiet battlefield with thoughts far different from those he had carried into battle. His victory could not erase the sorrow of losing Patroclus, nor could it restore the peaceful days that had vanished long before the war began. In that silent evening, triumph and grief existed together beneath the same fading light. Within the walls of Troy, sorrow quietly reached every home. Families gathered beneath glowing lamps, remembering those who would never return. The city remained strong, yet its greatest guardian was gone. As gentle night settled over towers and temples, the people looked toward the stars with hope that peace might someday return to the land they had defended for so many years. When dawn arrived, King Priam looked out from the towering walls of Troy with a heart filled with sorrow. He had ruled wisely for many years and had watched countless generations grow within the city's strong embrace. Now, the loss of his beloved son weighed heavily upon him. Yet, despite his grief, Priam understood that compassion often shines brightest during humanity's darkest moments. As evening approached, Priam quietly left the safety of Troy and crossed the peaceful plain toward the Greek camp. Carrying no weapons, only gifts and humble words, the elderly king placed his trust in kindness rather than strength. The moon rose gently above the silent battlefield, illuminating his slow journey through lands where countless warriors had once stood together beneath the same stars. When Priam entered the tent of Achilles, the mighty warrior listened quietly as the grieving father spoke with honesty and dignity. For a long moment, neither king nor hero thought about victory or defeat. They simply remembered the families they loved and the people waiting at home. In that peaceful conversation, shared humanity gently replaced the bitterness of war. Deeply moved by Priam's courage, Achilles agreed to return Hector's body so Troy could honor its beloved defender with a proper farewell. Outside the tent, the sea breeze drifted gently through the quiet camp, while the stars shimmered above. For one brief night, the endless conflict paused, allowing mercy to speak more loudly than bronze swords ever could.
With slow and solemn steps, Priam returned to Troy, carrying his son home for the final time. The city welcomed Hector with silent respect, as bells echoed softly across marble streets. Families gathered together beneath gentle torchlight, remembering a prince whose courage had protected them through many difficult years. Thus, the story of the Iliad closes not with celebration, but with compassion, remembrance, and the quiet hope that peace may one day follow even the longest of wars.
The days that followed were filled with quiet remembrance rather than battle. Across the plains before Troy, both armies honored a brief pause in the fighting. The familiar sounds of bronze weapons were replaced by gentle voices and solemn ceremonies. Smoke from sacred fires drifted peacefully into the morning sky, while the people of Troy prepared a farewell worthy of their beloved prince, Hector. Within the city, craftsmen, elders, and families gathered together as flowers decorated the marble streets. The towering walls that had witnessed years of conflict now watched over a city united in quiet reflection. Every citizen remembered Hector not only as a fearless defender, but as a kind father, devoted husband, and noble prince whose greatest wish had always been the safety of his people. As evening approached, the funeral ceremonies began with calm dignity. Soft music echoed through the ancient city, while glowing torches illuminated the gathering beneath a sky filled with countless stars. Friends, soldiers, and families stood together in silence, remembering the courage, wisdom, and compassion of the man who had protected Troy for so many years.
Far beyond the city walls, Achilles quietly reflected upon everything the long war had taken from both sides. Victory had brought neither lasting happiness nor the return of those he loved. Watching the calm sea shimmer beneath the moonlight, he understood that even the greatest warriors remain travelers through time, leaving behind only the stories others choose to remember.
So the story of the Iliad gently comes to its close, not as a tale celebrating endless victory, but as a quiet reminder of honor, loyalty, compassion, and the enduring hope for peace. Though centuries have passed since these legendary events were first told, their timeless lessons continue to travel across generations, inviting every listener to pause, reflect, and dream beneath the same endless sky. Now, the story has gently reached its peaceful ending. Allow the images of ancient Troy, quiet shores and golden sunsets to slowly fade like distant memories carried upon the evening breeze. There is nowhere else to travel, nothing more to remember, and nothing left to accomplish tonight. Simply rest, breathe naturally, and let your thoughts become as calm as the gentle sea beneath a sky filled with quiet stars. Imagine the rhythmic sound of soft waves reaching the shore, one after another, without hurry or end. The sea has witnessed countless generations, quietly carrying the stories of sailors, kingdoms, and forgotten heroes across its endless waters. Tonight, it asks nothing from you except to relax, release the day behind you, and drift peacefully with its timeless rhythm.
The warm glow of distant lanterns slowly disappears beyond the horizon as the world grows quieter with every passing moment. The winds have settled, the sea remains calm, and even the oldest stories now rest beneath the peaceful silence of the night. Allow your breathing to become slow and comfortable as your mind gently follows the endless rhythm of the ocean.
Above you, countless stars continue their quiet journey across the night sky, just as they did for the travelers of ancient Greece thousands of years ago. The world remains peaceful, the sea remains endless, and the night gently welcomes every wandering thought into stillness. There is only calm, only quiet, and the comforting sound of waves meeting the shore. Thank you for spending this peaceful evening with the Sleep Odyssey. As the narration gently fades away, allow the soothing sound of ocean waves to continue your journey into deep, restful sleep. May your dreams be calm, your night be peaceful, and your morning arrive with quiet renewal. Good night, and sleep well.